The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The Edge of Light, a photography challenge program where we take amateur photographers, send them out with a film crew, and try to replicate an image, a simple project that we're going to teach them here tonight. I'd like to welcome Angela and Heather to our program. These are our first competitors. They're going to get to go out with our film crew and try to make a natural light portrait using a very simple one reflector fill. We'd like to welcome you to our show. You're going to have an opportunity to go through this little lesson tonight to see if you can make an image that's competition quality. That's the idea. We're going to bring them back in later, critique their image, and show them what we might have done in the same situation. So I'd like to introduce George. He's our model in the studio when we don't have a model. And we're going to use him for our portrait today. So what we want to do when we're out in the field is we want to bring in our white foam core board. We want to bring it in close enough on the shadow side of the person's face to level out the light from one side to the other. So right now we have a small light coming from this direction, and the direction of light is from my left. And the foam core being on the right will fill this in about 2 to 1, so that this side will be about a half a stop less on this side, from this side, just from the natural light. So if it's still a little too dark, they can use another small piece of foam core. We're going to allow them to have 2, to bring it in and use it underneath the person's chin or in the scene to highlight, to bring their eyes up a little bit and to level that out. The reason for bringing in the fill light is to eliminate the contrast between the light and the dark. When you take someone out in bright sunlight, you're probably taking somebody out in the middle of the day and try to photograph them, they end up with raccoon eyes. Or one side of their face is very dark, the other side of their face is in highlight and too bright. So to even out that light, we're going to use a simple piece of foam core to act as a fill to bring in the light on the side of their face that isn't well lit. You can use 2 pieces of foam core. Yep. They could be any size you want. Just remember, bigger is always a softer light source. So the smaller the light source, the less fill you're going to get. It's also going to be a little harder. Bigger gives you a nice soft light source. When you think about the sky, where the sun is, we use this giant softbox out there, right? So we have a lot of light, big light that floats around. So if you want to use a bigger piece of foam core as you can over here to make it practical, and the piece that you use underneath the fill, you could actually lay that right on the ground. It's going to pick up the light and bring that up into the people's face. So that's the challenge. Are you willing to take that?
Yep. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any questions?
So I didn't understand the half face thing. I didn't understand what you were talking about there.
I think if you watch it from the other side.
Yeah, that's the problem is where you're sitting. We'll go through this again when we're done.
Okay.
But the light coming from this direction, this is going to be the highlight side. This is going to be the shadow side. So when you're making a portrait, there's a couple of different places, right? We could show 2/3 of the face, keep this piece a little bit darker. But generally what happens is, because it's away from the directional light, is it falls off too dark. And we want that highlight to be the highlight. We want that to be where our eye goes. But at the same token, we want this cheek just to be filled in a little bit and underneath your eyes, because your eyes are designed to shade, or your eyebrows are designed to shade your eyes from bright sunlight. So at noontime, when the sun is at its peak, if you think about it, your eyebrows actually keep the sun from directly going into your eyes.
Right. Okay.
Also makes our photos look kind of funky because you get that raccoon eye thing, and you need to bring in light. So when you're doing outdoor portraits and you're using a flash, we want to be able to fill that in. And if we're doing a natural light photo like this, we can take somebody off into the edge of shade, because remember, everything happens, drama happens at the edge of light, right? Yep. So we want to be able to just fill that in, that little kiss on the other side, just to make their face level out a little bit, so you can see the detail on that shadow side and it doesn't fall into black.
When you use the reflector underneath, is that what gets rid of the raccoon eye?
Yes, it helps. Most of the time we use fill flash. In this case, we're just going to use the foam core. Okay. And when we're all done, because we're going to have just we're going to give you a simple setup to do, but you shoot Nikon and you shoot Canon. So we have very good representation of two of the best camera brands that are out there on the market today. We're going to be shooting manual. So when we review your images, we're going to look at the EXIF data to make sure that happens. And we want you to shoot as long a lens as you have. So a good portrait lens starts at about 80 millimeters and goes out from there. I see, Angela, that you have, what is that? That's 18 to 55 millimeter lens. Yeah. So it's got vibration reduction on it, so that means that you're going to be able to get a couple extra stops of light hand holding it. But being only 55 millimeter is going to challenge you a little bit in the portrait. You're going to have to get in a little closer to fill the frame. Okay. So you're going to have to work a little bit harder on that. And Heather, what do you have there? 35 to 80 and a 55 to 250. So you definitely want to be shooting the 250. Okay. That's going to give you a little bit, you'll be able to compress the photo a little bit. You're going to be able to get a little farther back. The longer lens is going to change the look of your portrait a little bit. The background will be a little bit softer, and you'll be able to compress the image. It'll look a little bit more dimensional. The 55, although that's a good lens, and it's a good general all-around lens, and we certainly don't want to scare anybody away, it's not the best portrait lens. So you're going to have to work a little harder to get there. Normally we think of a portrait lens starting at 80 millimeter and going out from there. A good portrait lens is something like this, which is 80 to 200. 105 millimeter is good, 130 millimeter. Anything what is considered a long lens, or a telephoto, borderline from telephoto out, is a good lens to use for portraits. So I know this is what you have, and that's what the challenge is, to shoot the gear you have, not to go by gear. And just a little caution in that you're going to have to work a little harder. Okay. Heather, you're going to be okay. I would be shooting that out at 250 if possible. Okay. That's where you want to be. The thing we're going to be looking for is all the things that you would normally look for in a photo, such as good composition and focus. We want the eye sharp. It's a portrait, but we're going to be looking more particular at the light and how you fill the face in, and bring that portrait to life. Remember, you want catch lights in your subject's eyes, so with your foam core you should be able to achieve that pretty readily. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Awesome. Well, have a good time with our film crew, and I can't wait to see you back here where we'll review your images. Have a good time.
Thanks, Ray.
You're welcome. After we finished filming, Heather turned the tables on her crew, taking a shot of her own just for the fun of it.
I recently got into photography to try something different creatively. Before taking a photography course a few months ago, I had no idea how to use my camera. I always had it on the automatic settings where the camera did everything for me except push down the shutter. Using the foam core is an easy concept. However, it is an added variable that you as a photographer have to think about, along with your camera settings and the way the model is positioned. was lucky during this shoot to have an assistant, Roseanne, the model's mother, holding the foam core for me. Playtime over. We got a bit more serious so I could get some nice images for the competition. Although this wasn't specifically part of the challenge, I wanted to try to get an image showing movement in Maddie's skirt.
I've enjoyed photography as long as I can remember. I'm sure it has something to do with my father, who has always liked taking pictures and learning about his camera. I remember taking pictures with my point-and-shoot camera when I was younger, but the photos never looked the way I wanted them to. I wanted my images to look similar to the way I saw it, to be able to capture a moment the way it was in my memory. I got my first quote-unquote real camera so I could have control of the photos, and then came the challenge of how to do that. Years later, I'm still learning, but loving every minute. The sun was out all day until we got to the park, of course. I was unsure how well this would work with the sun going in and out, as well as the daylight fading. I was pleasantly surprised to see that it still helped illuminate my model's face nicely, though I wish I had brought an assistant to hold the foam core at better angles. This area was a little harder because the light was completely behind the building. This made using the foam core to reflect the light even more important. I was able to get good lighting with it, however, I did not like the look of the angle I was shooting at. Looking back, I wish I had climbed onto the ledge with her and shot from there. Not being happy with the look of inside the building, I decided to try the steps out front. This area was much nicer, especially with the foliage behind Alyssa. The colors were very flattering. I was able to use the foam core here to even out the lighting and get several good shots. It was really hard to choose my favorites. For something a bit different, I tried sitting my model on the Canon. I felt the high seat back was a little too distracting, though. Still wanting to incorporate the Canon in our shoot, I moved Alyssa to a standing position with the barrel in front of her. I was happier with this look and still got the benefit of having the sunlight hitting her hair from behind. I found that having an assistant in this area would have been great. It was very difficult to hold the foam core at the needed angle while still trying to shoot. I wasn't able to move freely and get a better angle or avoid having the foam core show in the image. Overall, I felt this was a good challenge. I was able to use the foam core as a reflector, play with light, and get some really good images.
Welcome back, Angela and Heather. I hope you had a good time out with our film crew. At this point, I'd like to go through some of them with you and discuss what you did and how you did on your lesson. Do you have anything you'd like to say about your shoots? Were they fun? Did you have a good time?
They were definitely fun.
Yeah?
We had a good time.
Our film crews are riot, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. My model was fun too.
Your model was fun?
Yes.
And so your images are first in the stack. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your model?
So I picked Maddie because I thought she was full of life and I thought that it would be like a high energy shoot. That's what I was going for. And it definitely worked out that way. And she definitely pulled it off. There was some good color, you know, in her face. So I liked the way that the light hit her face. The challenge that I faced a little bit was just, you know, putting the film core and making sure that the shadows were correct in the way it should kind of pull out the light and get rid of some of the bright light.
Right. Well, you can use the foam core as a gobo, but in this case, the assignment was to use the foam core to keep the light from one side of the face to the other a little bit more even. Not flat, but just so that you didn't have extreme contrast from one side to the other. So this first picture you took of Maddie, the light seems to be coming in from the right side, and then you said you had the foam core over on the left side of her?
No, the opposite.
The opposite side.
It was actually on the
So you get
opposite, on the right side.
Okay, so the foam core is providing the bulk of the light in this case. So this is acting more as a reflector than a fill. It's pretty nice. You have a little light in her hair, so there's a little bit of a rim light going on. But the image from side to side is fairly flat. So in this particular case, a little bit more dimension to the light would have sculpted her face a little bit better. And her hands are kind of prominent in the scene, so it's kind of dragging my eye to that part because it's a little bright. But no, that's why we did this. We're out there trying to have a little bit of fun and make some images. So let's review your second image. Second image is Maddie again by the pool. Looks like the sun's coming in from the back of her, and you have your fill light on the right again. This picture, this image is a little bit stronger as far as the assignment, because there is a little bit more dimension to her face. There's a little bit of shadow on the right side, and her left side is being illuminated by the reflector. So that's definitely headed towards the right direction. Still a little bright on the back of her head. Could have brought that fill in a little bit closer. Your third image, Maddie again. This image, you have her by a tree. It's a little busy and confusing with the way that it's positioned with the tree, and I think you were trying to get under there to grab a little bit of shadow,
Yeah.
a little bit of shade.
Yep.
She has a hat on, and normally with a hat, the eyes will become shaded even more. I think you did a pretty good job with the reflector in this case, filling in underneath the hat and lighting up the mask of her face. She has two very, very, very nice catch lights in her eyes, so did a pretty good job on that, Angela. So Angela, you did a pretty good job. The three images together, I like the last one by the tree the best, and I think that was more in tune with the assignment. You know, the challenge really was to use the reflector or two pieces of foam core to light up the mask of the face and do a portrait. So I think in that end, you came the closest with that image to the assignment. The other two images were okay, but third one is definitely stronger, and it probably could have benefited a little bit from Photoshop a little bit to maybe add a vignette and pull your eye back into her face a little better. But you did an awesome job lighting up the mask of her face, and especially since she was wearing a hat. Okay. Hats are challenging. So good job. Heather, your model. Tell us a little bit about her.
She's my daughter, Alyssa, and she's been my model since she was little, so I figured it was appropriate to to have her be my model again.
Awesome. So you had a good time with our film crew?
Yes.
Yeah. Anything happen while you were in the park?
I had a stalker guy.
Oh. Her stalker turned out to be me. I just happened to be going by where they were shooting that day by accident, and I seen them in the park.
And scared us.
And scared them. You know, for a lot of things that you do, you need a permit. When you go to photograph at certain places, you do need a permit. You just can't whip out a camera anywhere and put people and film crews and sets. So as I ran across the park towards them, I yelled about their permit and kind of, I think I startled them a little bit. But, what's your side of the story, Heather? Where did you get that permit?
I was just there with the film crew.
Okay, so now that we got the stalker out of the way and we know that, you know, nobody's stalking.
No danger.
This first image, let's talk about this one a little bit. Okay, so this image of your daughter, I see that you shot this outside underneath a tree, so you're getting a little benefit of the shadow, the shadow from the tree. The light is nice. I can see that you have the foam core in pretty close to her face because the catch lights in her eyes are very strong and solid, and the mask of her face is filled in very well. I can also see she has beautiful eyes, and the way you brought the light in brought her freckles on her face out really, really well. She's a very pretty girl.
Thank you.
This image, the portrait part of the image is really nice. The thing that draws my attention is the bright sky. The sky, you don't have a lot of detail left in there, and it could have been a little, the exposure could have been down a little bit, maybe to bring out some of the blue in the sky. That was a nice day. But other than that, the image of her is really strong. Overall, that bright piece kind of takes away from that.
Okay.
So your second image. This is really beautiful. She's posed well. Her expression is nice. I can see that you've got the light in there really nice, bringing in the fill light with the foam core. Her face is just beautifully well lit. The mask of her face is gorgeous, and she's a pretty girl. The background's a little bit out of focus, so I can tell that you shot that at the longer depth of field that we talked about. It's beautiful. Nice image.
Thank you.
Your third image. This image is very nice as well. She's got a nice rim light on her hair coming in from the left side. The foam core is pulled in a nice catch light in her eye, and you have nice lighting across her face. And I think the dark shirt helps vignette the frame and bring your eye right back to her. It's beautiful. Did a nice job.
Thank you.
I hope she appreciates this because these are her memories that you're making here. So I've seen some of the back footage from both of your shots, so a little bit more of the behind the scenes. Even though I wasn't there, I did get to see what you were doing and how you were doing it, and I think you did very well. Both of you guys did a great job. I seen some of your playing around, Angela, with your model out there dancing in the middle of the yard. Which I thought was, well, where's the assignment here? But,
we went a little in a different direction.
yeah, I see that. But on the other hand, Heather, you took what we showed you right here and you took it out and you crafted that gorgeous image of your daughter. You're very proud of this.
Thank you.
Make sure you do the one thing that most people don't do. Print that. Put it on a wall. And, you know, not 8 by 10, make a wall portrait out of it. 16 by 20, and hang that. Frame it and hang it. Because most people don't do what they need to do. They leave their images in the digital camera or on their computer or on their iPhone. You need to print it, get it on the wall, so people can enjoy it. Before we started this, the first class, we went out and shot the first scene, and our model, Angela, one of our competitors, also was our model. So she got 2 lessons actually. She got the one when we shot her, and the one here in the studio is a picture of her. And she's a beautiful young lady, and we used the foam core the way we showed it to light the image. Thank you for watching our show. And thank you to our competitors. If you'd like to be a competitor, email us at eol@peoplesphotography.com. P-E-E-P-L-E-S. Come back and watch us again. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.